Okay, welcome to this UWC International's Facebook live event. This is the third live event that we've done over the past few days. It's great that you could join us. My name is Matthias Rosenberg. I'm the head of school and college development at UWC International. I'm also an alum of Chun United World College in Hong Kong, and I also had the privilege of teaching at Mahindra United World College in India for a few years, quite a long time ago. I'm joined here by a couple of younger alums, and I'm going to get this one here to introduce herself first.
Thank you, Matthias. My name is Luehrmann, and I graduated from the United World College Thailand this May. So I attended from 2016 to 2018, and I'm currently interning with the UWC International Office as a communications and engagement intern. And yeah, like Matthias said, I'm here to answer the questions from a younger alum's perspective, and I'll hand you over to Izzat now.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. My name is Izzat Shamroukh. I work at UWC International as the Global Selection Program Officer. I went to Atlantic College, UWC Atlantic College in 2006, 2008, and I'm here also to answer your questions and hope that this session will be helpful.
Great, good, thank you for that. We'll be aiming to have a quite informal format to this live event, and we hope that we get lots of questions from the viewers. If you're enjoying what we're doing, then please make sure that you like and share this stream with your friends, and also the stream will be recorded, so it'll be available on our Facebook page and on YouTube before too long, and the other two events that we ran are also available as recorded sessions. So, should we go to a couple of questions that have been sent in previously? So we had a question sent in around deadlines for applications for UWC. There's a few deadlines coming up. Do you want to take that question and talk us through it?
Sure. Deadlines vary across national committees. Each national committee will have their own specific timeline. So it's best if you get in touch with the national committee if you'd like to know specifically about your country, when is the deadline. I think the website is coming up shortly on the screen, how to get in touch with your national committee. For the global selection program, there is no deadline. So the sooner that you submit your application, the sooner we'll be able to review it and let you know if you've been invited to a selection weekend or not. We try to get in touch within 2 weeks of submitting the application, but you can also get on the global selection program page and see the dates for each global selection weekend that we have. I think that covers the deadlines.
Yeah. And there's a few selection weekends coming up for the global selection program, and we know of a few deadlines that are coming up in national committees. So we know of Pakistan coming up, Chile and Lebanon. Those are imminent, and then in January there's a whole lot more national committee deadlines coming up. So the best thing to do is to check on the national committee page on our website. Great. We have been joined by Paramdeep and by Vincent. Welcome. And we're also joined by Afaq. So welcome, Afaq, as well. I'll pick up the question here from Vincent. So he says, how can we join host families in the summer vacations, and can we join host families for a month? Will UWC bear the cost of joining host families, and what's the benefit of joining those host families? Sarah, I'm going to turn to you to answer that.
Sure.
Okay? Yeah.
Yes. So host families are going to be available through the school. So most likely each school will have a different process through it, but usually they put out a call in the local community and ask families if they would want to host a student. So then you would basically get matched, and they would be available during the summer holidays and probably the winter holidays as well, depending on the structure of the host family program. But a lot of them are also available on weekends. Sometimes you will have host family weekends where a lot of students will spend time with their host families in their local context. And as far as I'm aware, but you will get more details from that from your school or college, a lot of times that like the host families will bear the cost of your stay. You won't have to pay to be there because you want to be included in a family like a family member would and get an authentic experience and bond with them. And I think the clear benefits are that a lot of the host families are from the local community or the nationality and the country that you're staying at, so you get a really genuine feel for, you can get a connection to the host country that you're in. And I think it is really nice to spend a little time outside of the UWC campus and context sometimes and get away a little bit. And
because it's maybe important to remember that UWC is a residential program, so you stay on campus during your 2 years. Izzat, did you join a host family when you were at Atlantic College?
Yes, I had a wonderful host family, which I'm still in touch with. Now we still send cards on Christmas. They were really lovely. It was nice to spend sometimes when Christmas times, or sometimes just they used to invite me also for going on their short family holidays, which was beautiful.
Fantastic, and you're still in touch?
We're still in touch, of course, and we see each other quite regularly. They are from London, and I live in London, so somehow we kept in touch. And,
that's great.
Yeah, but it's definitely something that would help you integrate in the community, learn a lot about the community that we're living in, and do fun things. You know, it's while also you're far from your family, it's nice to have another family out there who you'd sit and share this dinner or warm times together.
Yeah. Just on the topic of community, I wonder whether we should talk a little bit about community service. So the CAS program, Creativity, Action and Service, which is an integral part of the International Baccalaureate Diploma program, but which I think at UWC is extra important because we want our students to integrate with the local community. Sarah, you're nodding vigorously. What CAS did you get involved with in Thailand?
I got involved with a lot of CAS, especially my first year, tried out a lot of things. And then in my second year, we also started a lot of projects. A project that I was very heavily involved with was a local mangrove restoration and coral reef conservation program, which was basically included coral monitoring dives and mangrove planting events and beach cleaning events. And I think it's one of my favorite CAS projects that I was involved with because it included the local community in so many ways. We worked with a lot of local farmers and local mangrove planters, and we worked with other international schools and local Thai schools to bring awareness about plastic on the beaches. And I felt like it brought the Phuket school communities together because we did the beach cleaning events with some of the local kids, and although there was sometimes a barrier of language, I thought it was a lovely experience and very UWC in that despite some of our differences, everybody worked towards the same goal, and I thought that was lovely.
Yeah, that's pure UWC, isn't
Yeah.
it? That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
And Izzat, how about your CAS?
At the beginning, I got involved into everything. There was so much interesting stuff that I wanted to get involved in. We would have to do 3 activities and 1 service at a minimum, but many students would choose to be involved in more. My service was social service, the main one that I was involved in, and that was pretty cool because we had different things that we would do, but one of the things I enjoyed was to spend some time with the local community in Cardiff, which was really great. One of the programs was to there was a community center that integrates people who had mental illness, and then now they integrate them with the community again as a middle step. And we would go and hang out and kind of just spend some time together and just be normal.
Okay, just be normal.
What about you, Matthias?
Oh, I remember my service particularly well. I worked volunteered at a school for children with disabilities, and I was paired up with one of the students there who was, I think he was about 6 or 7 at the time, Umar he was of Pakistani background, and I became his assistant during class. So he needed quite a lot of assistance in moving around and in participating with the school with the class activities. And I enjoyed that so much that I did that service for 2 years.
Wow.
So I stuck with the service for the 2 years, because for me it was also important to continue with the relationship that I had established with him.
Yes.
And I think that's quite
still in touch.
important. We're not in touch anymore. He actually moved away just before I left UWC.
Okay.
So, Lucas has joined us. Welcome. We've also been joined by Supredo and by Noria. So, hello. This is the UWC International Facebook Live event talking about UWC applications, life at UWC, and trying to answer all your questions that are coming in. Thank you for the questions. We have another question from Vincent. If we are selected for UWC and come to the country, will there be anybody there for us to receive us and to get us to the school? A question about pocket money, and are we allowed to go to malls for shopping? Great questions, Vincent. So there's 3 things there. So the arrivals process, I think, pocket money, and then I would say what we do in the evenings and the weekends, sort of free time questions.
Yeah.
Do you want to answer maybe 1 or 2 of those?
Sure. So I wouldn't worry at all about someone picking you up. There will be someone there, and there will either be transport organized or a house parent picking you up, anything along those lines. Some of the schools have a big pickup and a big welcoming ceremony, so it's something to look forward to, but I'm sure you will get all of those details when the time comes. And in terms of pocket money, this will also depend on your scholarship, so perhaps we can say a few things about that, Matthias, in a second. But for example, I didn't get any pocket money from school. It was something that that will depend on your scholarship package and the school policies on that. And in terms of evenings, you're of course allowed to go for malls, but I'm sure there's also many other events going on in the evenings and the weekends. We always have cultural shows on the weekends. People come together for discussions on things. You can have dinner together. So there's always something going on, a lot of opportunities, and shopping, I'm sure, is one of them.
Well, we do need to shop from time to time, right?
Yeah.
So, how was your arrivals experiences?
My arrival at UWC Atlantic College does an amazing arrival. So apart from picking you up from the airport with everybody else in the same bus, and then you have about 3-4 hour journey to the college, which by then you would know everybody on the bus, where they're from. As soon as you arrive at the college, you will have basically the whole college waiting.
Amazing.
and at the door of the bus, you'll have to say your name and where you come from, and everybody will cheer you up. So it is a really nice arrival, and everyone comes up with their pans and spoons and forks.
Okay.
Amazing.
It's like a whole, it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you feel very welcome, and straight away there's people who are welcoming you and being there from the house that you're in.
Maybe I'll take the question about pocket money as an opportunity to talk about scholarships a little bit. So scholarships are a very important part of UWC, because our intention is that we enable students to attend UWC and to provide them with the financial assistance that they need. And that is based on a financial assessment that happens after selection. And then the amount of scholarship that is provided to the successful applicants depends on that financial assessment, because we want to be sure that families contribute to the UWC experience if they can, and to the extent that they are able to. There's one small exception. The Global Selection Program does not provide any scholarships. So if you're applying through that program, that is on the understanding that you don't need any financial assistance and that you will cover the cost of the UWC experience yourself, or that your family will cover the cost. So this kind of goes to the question from Noria. Noria, welcome. It's great that you could join us. So Noria asks, are all UWCs free of cost for IB at the diploma level, so years 12 and 11 and 13. I'm from the German system, and when I was at school, we still had 13 years of schooling, so apologies.
And they do have that again.
Yeah, it's coming back, okay. So 11 and 12, so the last 2 years before university. Selection for UWCs is on the basis of promise and potential, so you are selected on merit, and then the financial question is sorted out in the way that I've just described. So there's a financial assessment that the applicant goes through so that we award the level of scholarship that is right. Noria also asked whether there is a UWC in Switzerland. No, there isn't. No. Not yet anyway, who knows? We currently have schools and colleges in 17 countries around the world, and the best way to explore those 17 schools and colleges is via our website, uwc.org, and on that website you will find a page for each of the schools and colleges giving you an overview. So do head over to that page when you have time. Dani, hi Dani, welcome to this Facebook Live event. You're currently applying to UWC, which is great, good luck. And you want a description of the activities that would take place in a day at any UWC. And you're from El Salvador, which is
I'm
great.
wearing the correct
Sarah,
shirt
fantastic.
Yeah.
This is as if it's been fun. Very good. So let's talk about a typical day at UWC.
Sure. Shall I start?
Yeah.
Okay. Generally, you'll have the first part of the morning for classes and the different subjects that you'll be taking. Then we have the lunchtime, and lunchtime is different and varies across UWC. Some give pizza.
Oh, really?
That's amazing.
Some give ice cream, and some don't. The second section after lunch will be for classes, and then after the second session of classes will be for activities and the services that you'll be doing for the CAS program. And depending on how many activities and services that you join, there is plenty. And then after that, I think before dinner and after dinner, some will be for homework and some will be for free time to do things that you'd wish to do.
And did it feel regimented, or did you feel you had to take responsibility for your own life at the school?
See, that was one of the challenges. It was really nice to learn how to organize my own program and set up my priorities. It was a good lesson. At the beginning, you kind of just want to join everything, and at some point you would pick and choose those things that are important and kind of follow up on them and keep some free time for you and learning some other things too.
Nice.
How about you?
Yeah, I agree with what Izzat said. Our schedule was quite similar, and then I agree with him being a very intense experience because all of a sudden a lot of us come from home where you live with your parents, and all of a sudden you have a lot more freedom, and that means that you have to take responsibility for how you manage your day, how you manage your time, and I personally really appreciated that because I feel like getting to explore that by myself and maybe making a mistake and learning from that as well has really helped me and shaped me in,
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll come back to that question in a little bit because I'm sure people are interested to find out what sort of support is available at the school to students. But I think the element of responsibility and taking care of your own schedule and of your own life is very important at UWC. We're joined by Lucien. Hello, nice to have you on this Facebook Live event. Lucien's question is, does UWC look for your visa or arrange your visa and tickets after you are selected by a committee. Now, the answer to that question is it depends, right? What was your experience?
We have done our own visa, our own tickets, everything. I think it's only in special cases that the college will get involved to help you with the visa. Otherwise, all the letters will be provided. So I would imagine that the students will take responsibility of issuing the visa and the tickets. If it's included in the scholarship, then yes, it will be organized by the college. But otherwise, it's the student responsibility.
Yeah, I think that makes sense as an answer. So generally speaking, the cost and the arrangements are by the student. Did you have to get a visa for Thailand for studying there?
I did, but we got a tourist visa, and then the school, once we arrived, they provided support and they helped us to go to the embassies and apply for a student visa. Yeah. So in a lot of ways, once you get there, I'm sure that there is support provided if you have questions.
And who bears the cost for that, as Izzat said, depends on the scholarship that is awarded to the successful students. We're joined by Robert. Welcome to this Facebook Live event. It's great to have you join us from the Columbia UWC National Committee. Great. Thank you for being here. Vincent asks, what is a David Scholarship for universities after UWC? Can we get fully funded scholarships after completing the diploma program from UWC? Who is going to talk about that? Scholarship counseling, that sort of stuff.
I did get a UWC Davis scholarship, so maybe I should say a few things about that. So there are scholarships available from Shelby Davis for UWC graduates for a certain number of universities. And it is possible to get scholarships, fully funded scholarships to the US. Although you do need to bear in mind that a lot of them are need-based. So similar, it will be a similar experience as with UWC, where there will be a financial assessment being done, but there are also certain scholarships that are merit-based. But I think the experiences that you have at UWC and the projects that you get involved with and the intellectual curiosity that you have maybe through UWC, through the education that you receive there, I think really puts you in a good position to apply for universities. And yeah, what do you say?
Great. Yes, so there is the Davis program, which covers quite a large number of universities in the United States. And the best thing to do is to actually find out more on the web, because it's a very important and big program. Maybe on that, there was a question a couple of days ago about how well recognized the IB is, the International Baccalaureate by universities. It's very well recognized, and it's really well known. It's a very mainstream international program which universities know very well, and a lot of universities really like it as well. So having an IB diploma is definitely a good thing in terms of your chances for universities. Paramdeep asks a question. Can you guys elaborate how your study at UWC impacted you and changed you to a better individual? So the whole question of UWC as a life-changing experience. How's it changed your life?
I think one of the main things, it's a big question, but it helped me to look back at where I am from and see the context I was living in from a bird's eye and understand that a little bit more. It really helped me to understand myself and a lot more, and what I really want from the future. To put more details on that is a little bit difficult, because it's a deep question.
Yeah. So maybe I'll turn to Sarah. You've had your UWC experience quite recently. What would you say from your perspective was life-changing about it?
I think there were many things, but if I had to pin it down to one thing, I think it would be the fact that all of a sudden it was like a paradigm shift. Countries that felt very far away or very distant, all of a sudden they're not just Kenya or they're not just Cambodia. All of a sudden they're the faces of my roommates, of my best friends, of the people that helped me with my math homework. All of a sudden they're personal stories, and there are things that you connect to. And I really think it has completely changed the way that I look at news. It's changed the way that I discuss with people and I connect with people, because I feel like it's this big mosaic of all the stories that I got to be a part of. And I think it just changes your life, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being in the same place with people from all around the world, and also from different backgrounds. So socioeconomically speaking, as well as in terms of their passports and nationalities. I think that for me was the biggest sort of eye opener when I went to UWC, which is I think it really helps you with engaging with people afterwards. So UWC, I always say, is not about well, it is about the 2 years there, because they're intense and very rewarding 2 years, but it's also about the future afterwards, and then how you engage with the world, and what you do with your life, I suppose.
I completely agree with you on this.
Yeah.
And becoming a part of this big family where anywhere you travel in the world, anywhere you go, there's always somebody who would be able to welcome you, introduce you to the place that you're going to.
Yeah. We have another question from Vincent. Do you want to take that question?
Yeah, sure. Are we given IBDP's course books and stationery free of cost? And is there any uniform of UWC? Okay, 2 questions. I'll start with the uniform. There is no uniform for UWC.
It depends.
Oh, really?
There is.
Okay.
There wasn't
Yeah,
Atlantic. There wasn't at
okay.
LPC, but there is
There is
Thailand,
a okay.
Oh, you should have seen that. Yeah.
I didn't notice actually. Yeah, so apparently, so it depends which UWC college you go to. At Atlantic College, there was no uniform, so you'd feel comfortable to wear what you like. For the first question was given the stationery. Yes, at UWC Atlantic College, everything was available. Was that the same case at UWC?
Yeah. And maybe something about the uniforms as well, because I know that it's a big contested subject sometimes. UWCs are schools, and as much as they're international, they're also in the context of the local law and the local culture. And in countries like Thailand and in Singapore, it is a legal requirement for students to have uniforms. With that being said, I personally never felt like it was inhibiting me or my freedom. I think it's a valuable lesson to be learned, that you can maybe express yourself in different ways that are in your clothes. And I think it's also important to recognize that different cultures will have different requirements, and sometimes you have to adapt to that. And the schools make sure that it's the least strict that they can be. So for us, it was just a t-shirt, and you could choose which pants you wear. So it was really loose. It wasn't a very strict uniform.
Great. And what subjects did you study at UWC Thailand? This is a question from Noura. Hello, Noura. And also Siyun has joined us. So welcome to this Facebook Live.
Is the question what subjects you can, or what subjects I studied?
Well, I want to answer the question by each of us saying what we studied.
I studied at higher level biology, English, and global politics, and then at standard level math, Spanish, and German. Okay,
and you? Can you remember?
I'm gonna try. Some of them don't exist anymore.
Okay.
I had higher English A, biology higher, and history. By then it was called History of West Asia, so it's I think it's the history of the Middle East basically. And standard levels I took Arabic, self-taught, so which means you just teach it to yourself. Peace and conflict, which doesn't exist anymore.
It's called global politics.
Global politics now. Yeah. And then maths.
Maths. Okay. I also did maths at standard level. I did Chinese. I discovered Chinese when I was in Hong Kong.
That's impressive.
And I did German, self-taught. And at higher level, I did history, biology, and English B. So I think what comes across from these answers just now is that the IB requires you to do quite a broad range of subjects. So it keeps you quite wide. Especially in comparison to A levels, for example. So it makes you study a wide range of disciplines, which I think is quite enriching. Someone is asking about an overview of how the diploma program works. Can I turn to Sarah for that? Maybe talk us through the subjects and the other components
for sure.
of the DP.
So like you mentioned briefly before, the IB is very much broader than the A-levels. So it requires you to study 6 subjects in 6 different areas, you could call them. So you will cover anything from your mother tongue to an acquired language, to sciences, social sciences, maths, the arts. So you're really challenged to explore different subjects and not just set yourself in the sciences, for example. But then there's also some other components. So every DP student will take part in a course called Theory of Knowledge that explores how we know things and where knowledge comes from. So it's very philosophical in that way, and it can be a lot of fun. And then a part of the IB experience is also 2 other very core aspects. For one is the extended essay, which is a 4,000 word research piece that is conducted on an academic interest that you have, and the CAS, the creativity, activity and service component, which allows you to develop certain skills in a non-academic setting. And I think that's a very big part, like we said before, in the UWC experience. You will be doing a lot of service, a lot of projects, and so it's learning in a lot of different ways. Approach from a lot of different approaches.
Yeah, and we're currently showing an overview page on our website about academic life, so that gives you a lot more details. Did you want to say something else? Yeah,
I wanted to recap the topics that we have.
We
have covered quite a lot of topics. So if you've just joined us now, this is our 3rd live Q&A sessions. Please like, share, and try and. I hope this will be helpful to you, but also please share it so it's helpful to other people who are also trying to get some answers for these questions. We have covered quite a wide range of topics so far, from talking on deadlines, host families, what is a typical day at UWC, what is CAS activities and subjects, and we went on those in deep details. We also discussed what sort of scholarships would be available via the UWC, and what it would cover, from visa to transport to UWC. And what was my favorite? It was the arrival at UWC. How would that the different kind of reception at UWC the first day?
Okay, good. So maybe let's turn back to the topic of university counselling at UWCs, and maybe more broadly the sort of support that is given to students while they are at UWC. Sarah, would you mind starting us off?
Yes, for sure. Should we start with university component, then we can go more general? All the schools will have a university counselor that will be there exactly for. Vincent asked if there is a guidance counselor that can help you with financial aid, for example, for students from a low-income family. And yes, there will be support. You will have a trained counselor that will be able to help you narrow down your choices, because you will have to pick out where you want to go to university, what you want to study. So there will be support given there. And I think, more broadly speaking, the support system that is available to you for your well-being, for academic support, is also very good and very broad. There's counselors that you can speak to if you're struggling or if something is challenging you. There's peer support. Peer support was a big component of my experience. So our counselor would train students in a group to psychologically and mentally support their peers, and I think that's a wonderful initiative. I was part of that, because sometimes you don't want to speak to a counselor, you want to speak to your friends, and it's good to have someone with an open ear that can listen to you. And then you also have your house parents and your teachers that are always there for you. I think we mentioned in the last live stream, it is really great to have house parents that maybe also teach you, because if you have a homework question, you can knock on their door late at night and they will still be there to answer your questions. So
I would suggest not too late at night. Having been a house parent,
oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. So, but generally, I think it's fair to say that there's support mechanisms available also for things such as English language support, and additional learning needs as well. I would probably say in the application process, it's quite important to flag up any additional needs or circumstances that you have. Because if you are selected, it's really helpful for the school that welcomes you to be prepared and to know that you have, for example, dyslexia. Yeah, so they might need to speak with your current school about the support that you are getting at the moment to make sure that you are supported properly while you are at UWC. So that's quite an important point. Yeah.
I'll just stress that this is in no way will affect your application. It is not scored, and it will not affect whether you will be accepted or not by the National Committee or the Global Selection Program. It is just, as Matthias explained, to help us understand how we can help you better at UWC.
Yeah. There are, however, some conditions, serious conditions, which wouldn't enable UWC to support you. So we would probably say, based on those conditions, we are not able to offer you a place, because it would not be good for you, and it may also not be good for the UWC school community. So this is a very important topic. So it's good that we've covered that off. So we've gone off topic a little bit in terms of Vincent's question. He asked a bit about financial aid, which I think we covered off a few minutes ago. So I said earlier, this Facebook live stream and the last two are being recorded, so you can check back via our Facebook page and our YouTube channel later on next week, I suppose. Hi Kio Salam, it's great that you could join us, and to anybody else who has joined us recently, it's good to have you on this event. I have a very it's a favorite question of mine, actually. What are the teachers like at UWC? Great question. Tell us.
There will be, I think, since you have been teaching, you'll be the best to answer that question.
Fine. So in terms of my, I taught international history and theory of knowledge, actually, at UWC, and those are both topics that I covered in my master's studies. So I was prepared for all those difficult questions that come up in a typical UWC classroom. So the teachers will have relevant experience that enable them to teach the subjects that they are teaching. But teachers also play a much bigger role at UWC, or most teachers do, by being also tutors and house parents. So every student is also put into a tutor group. And I wonder whether Izzat or Sarah wants to tell us a bit more about the tutor group system.
Sure, I can elaborate on that. So we will have a tutor that will help us academically, and so we will have a meeting. We had a meeting once a week, I think, with our tutor, where we will discuss how the week has been going, if we have been finding anything challenging or not being able to understand something, what kind of support that we will need, and they really were helpful in directing us to either to the right resource or even sometimes helping us with the homework itself. I thought that was and that support is available in very small groups, and then if you need it, you can also have it one-on-one with the tutor. Many times the tutor will invite us to their home as well, so it's not in an office environment, so you just sit at home and have that more comfortable way of talking about any challenges.
Yeah. And how about you, Sarah? What was your experience?
We didn't have formal tutor groups, but we had we were divided amongst our house parents. So I really loved the experience because, for example, for me, I would be, studying math in the morning, and then in the afternoon we would have such tutor meetings, maybe with that math teacher, and then in the evenings he would join us for board game night or whatever. So I feel like it was a very well-rounded experience, and it makes you feel really supported in whatever you're doing, because you know that the people that are there for academic support are also there for you to come with any other questions that you may have. So
yeah.
Some teachers also join activities and services.
Yes,
so that was
exactly.
the fun part too,
Yeah.
where you will know them on a different
Level,
than-
exactly.
Correct, yeah. So it's an all-encompassing
Yeah,
sort of picture.
they're not just your teachers, I'd
Yes.
say.
We've been joined by Marwan. Hi, Marwan, and
Hello.
Annika. It's great you could join us, Annika. And Annika has a question. Would having anxiety in the past, but being healthy and stable now, influence whether you get in or not? So I'll answer that question. I encourage everybody who applies to UWC to be transparent about the mental health issues that they have faced or are facing at the moment. That is very important. Okay, it's important because for conditions that are not too severe that are not too severe. This then enables the school that welcomes the student to make sure or to check whether the right support is available for that student. So it's very important to actually create a seamless transition from your current school into a UWC school. The second thing I would say is that a condition such as anxiety, they tend to have ranges. So it then depends on the severity of the condition and also how long ago that condition existed. And what we want to be very sure is that anybody who joins UWC can go through that experience in a way in a good way, where they are well. Yeah, it's important that people are healthy both physically and mentally. By extension, that also applies to additional learning requirements, for example. So I mentioned dyslexia earlier. It then really depends on the level of dyslexia. So I would encourage any applicant to UWC to be transparent about their additional needs, because only then will we be able to support that student if they are selected. Marwan asks, is there health care in the UWC for the student? What was the health provision like in Thailand, Sarah? What would happen?
We had insurances from the school, and there was an international hospital not too far away, so and a health center on school as well, so we had a nurse. So for anything minor, I'd say if you were running a fever or you're having a cough, you would have a school nurse that was there. That was there during the school day, and then on emergency support during the weekends, for example. And you could go there and get medicine, and then for anything larger than that, for any accidents, there was a hospital there, and your house parents would drive you there, and yeah.
So there's medical provision.
Yes.
So sort of minor medical provision on campus,
Exactly.
and then within a certain distance from campus, there is medical provision for the more serious things. Well, just a reminder, you are on the UWC International Facebook Live event. It's great that you could join us. We've just been joined by Tatevik and by Daniela. Welcome, and welcome to anybody else whose name I haven't mentioned. There's a Mohammed who's joined us recently, so you're very, very welcome, and also to Kyo who's joined us recently. If your question doesn't get answered in this event, please send your question to apply1@uwcio.uwc.org, and that email address will also appear on the screen, or has appeared on the screen just now. Annika says, I saw that UWC SEA is marked as academically challenging, and I was wondering if the different schools had different academic levels. That's a really good question, Annika. Thank you for asking it. By and large, UWCs achieve an above global average in terms of IB points at the end of the diploma. It would sort of it would take quite a lot of time to review all 17 schools. So let me ask maybe Sarah. So you came from the German school system, and then you joined the IB.
Yes.
What was your impression?
Of it being academically challenging?
At UWC Thailand, yeah.
I think it depends very much from what academic background you come from. I think in Germany we're blessed to have a very good education system, so I felt like it was quite a smooth transition. And even though the IB is quite challenging in itself, and the UWC experience adds a bit on top of that because you're away from home, you're in a new environment, I did find it challenging sometimes, but that's also part of it. You're supposed to be challenged. But I also felt like there was always enough academic and other support there that when you're challenged, it's never a negative, it's more positive and a learning opportunity. So I think the IB, I think UWC's, I think it's quite easy to say that I think all UWCs will challenge its students to the IB.
Yeah.
But I don't think it should be. I don't think there's a ranking on which school is the most challenging. I think it's very personal. The subjects that you take will influence that, and how well you cope with other things. So I think it's very difficult to pinpoint.
Yeah. Okay. And how about you? Did you find the IB challenging?
Not the IB per se as the subjects. I think for me, coming from an honor school to UWC, it was I was really impressed by the quality of education, and I was able to absorb it quite a lot. My challenge was on the English language because my English wasn't that good when I joined. So at the beginning, I had to spend a lot of time learning new words, especially when you're studying biology, where there's a lot of terminology that would make a difference if you're a native or a non-native speaker. But once I got the language, which was also pretty quick, you have to speak language everywhere, in your room, the service, class. Once I got the language improved, I felt that the process was really smooth, and there was enough support available. So challenge was in an English language rather than.
And as a teacher, I can confirm that those students who come with a slightly lower level of English initially, they catch up very, very quickly because they have to, and everything around them happens in English as well. So that works quite well. Mohammed asked a question about application deadlines and invitations for interview. So I'll just refer us back to the National Committee's page, which will come up on the screen just now, which gives you a route to find the different national committees. So on the right-hand side, there's a drop-down, and if you look at Pakistan, that will then take you to the web page for the Pakistani National Committee in this instance. It's important to say that different national committees they run independently, so the deadlines will be different across the world. So do make sure that you check the national committee either of your passport, of your nationality, or of your country of residence. So we'll check both actually. So what other questions should we go on to? In which month, this is a question from Vincent, in which month are diploma program exams held, and do the college apply for SATs? So do you have an opportunity to sit for SATs while you are? Did you sit for SATs?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So IBDP exams will usually, I think in 16 schools and colleges, will happen in May, late April to end of May, and then our Waterford will have their exams in November.
Correct.
And the SATs, I think a large majority of the UWCs will have their school registered as an SAT testing center. So, for example, in Thailand, we are an SAT testing center, so you can literally wake up in the morning and take the SATs and then go back to your room, for example. Whereas maybe for other schools, you will have to travel a bit, but there will also be support in organizing that, and you won't be the only one taking the SATs for sure, because a lot of students are going to be applying to the US.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So great. Thank you. Thank you for answering that question from Vincent. Kyo asked the question: are there any other UWCs apart from UWC Izzat Japan that have grade 10? So this is the year just before the diploma program, and the answer is yes. So our campus in China, in Shamroukh, offers a year 10 program. Our school in Waterford, in Eswatini or Swaziland, is actually a school with younger years as well. So that has year 10. UWC SEA, Southeast Asia, has year 10, as does Maastricht in the Netherlands. I'm just thinking
And
about
Thailand.
and Thailand. Thank you. I was thinking I had
One
forgotten
more.
someone. So UWCs come in broadly 3 flavors, so to speak. We have the colleges, which are 2-year programs, so that's where you do just the diploma program. We have full schools, which might start from all the way from kindergarten all the way through to year 12. And then there's a couple of campuses which are 3 years, so they have a year 10 pre-DP, pre-diploma program years, plus the 2 years for the diploma program. So, another question from Lucien. Are you cancelled when applying to a national committee that are you not resident and not a citizen, especially when there's no national committee where you live? This is a really good question because the national committee system can be a little bit confusing, I think.
Yeah.
So national committees have different eligibility criteria. So some national committees require applicants to be a citizen of the country. Other national committees are open to applications from people who are resident in that particular country. So if you, I said earlier, if you're applying through a national committee, it's always a good idea to check both the country of your citizenship, so your passport, and also the country where you are resident, because that might actually give you options. The important thing to remember is that you can only apply through one route. Yeah, so you only apply once in any 1 year. So that's very very important to remember. If you don't have a national committee, you also have the option to apply through the global selection program, which is open globally, and it's very important when you do that to check the page that's coming up on the screen just now, /IBDP, because at the bottom it gives you a whole overview of the differences between the global selection program and the national committee selection route. Yeah, so it asks some frequently asked questions on the left-hand side and then gives the answer for either one or for both of those routes. This is very important to check, so I would really encourage you, if you're thinking of applying, to check this page. Mamadou, welcome Mamadou. It's good to have you on this event, and welcome to anybody else who's joined us. Please make sure, if you're finding this useful and interesting, to share and like this stream so that other people can see it as well. We're recording this live stream, so it will be available after we have finished. Mamadou asks, how often are you allowed to go back home to families? Who wants to take that one?
I can start. You are allowed to go. I find using allowed is a little bit too strict. It's not allowed. UWCs would have the break time, say the summer and the winter break time, when you can, if you'd like to go home. Also, if you live close to the college, you can go home every weekend if you'd like. So that's with taking permission from the college. However, there is other interesting things that you can join to, whether it's visiting friends and that you meet within UWC, or other project weeks that you will be enrolling in. And I'm sure Sarah can give us more of an insight on the project week, maybe.
Yes, sure, I'd love that.
Yeah.
So for example, in UWC Thailand, we had a bit of a different system. We had a shorter summer holiday, and I think in total we had 5 smaller breaks in the school year. So technically you could have gone home every 6 weeks if you'd wanted to, but very few people actually did that, because in those breaks we always organized projects, like smaller project weeks or service trips. And project week in UWC Thailand is you basically spend the year working on a project that you organize yourself, and you get to go on without staff or teaching members, so you have the total responsibility. And a lot of these are projects that kind of develop over the years and become legacy projects. So yeah, there's amazing opportunities to get involved with during the breaks. And I think I went home 3 times in the 2 years, but some students may want to go home more often or less often. I also had friends who didn't go home at all during the 2 years, so I think it varies. What
It
about you
really
guys?
depends. I went home. I went home my first winter break, so the first December break. I went home for the middle of the year, the Northern Hemisphere summer, and then in the second winter break, I didn't go home. I went to Thailand actually
Oh,
with a couple of
amazing.
friends. So yeah, so it's really it really depends. I think it might be time for a quick summary of what
Okay,
we've
yeah,
covered so far.
sure. So we've covered again quite a wide range of topics, from questions like what are teachers like at UWC. We went into mental health, from what kind of support there is available at UWC and how important it is in the application process too. We answered also about healthcare available at UWC, national committee timelines, pre-IB at the different UWCs, eligibility to apply via different national committees, and we're just now about going home to families throughout the breaks and project weeks.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question from Annika. What approximate percentage of students who apply to UWC get accepted in the end? Now, let's answer this question actually by looking at our core selection criteria. Because the acceptance rate varies across the world, so it's very difficult to give a specific answer to that. But the more important answer to that question is, what do I need to demonstrate in order to have a good chance to get in? So Annika, I hope this will be as useful as an answer as a percentage. Do you want to take us through the core selection criteria?
Sure. So all selections, whether it's through the national committees or the global selection program, will be based on those 5 core selection criteria. Some national committees will add 1 or 2 other criteria, but this is the basis of being accepted. If you would like to see more of a description of these selection criteria, I'm sure it's coming up on the screen now and you can always visit it. Mainly it's the intellectual curiosity and motivation, active commitment, social competence, resilience, personal responsibility and integrity, and motivation for UWC. This will build the basis on which we would assess applicants. This would be also assessed through different methods. Some would use it through different activity group in a group kind of context. Some in interviews, some also, like in the global selection program, we would ask applicants to prepare a project and then present during the selection weekend. But those are the 5 core selection criteria that will need to be present.
Yeah. That's important. I think I'm just going to add, in terms of putting together a good application, it's really important that you present yourself as yourself. Yeah. So we find it quite important that applications are also put together by the applicant rather than by any helpers, because that allows the selection panel to get to know the candidate, either through the written application, but also then during the interview or during the selection day, which consists of interviews and other activities which allow the selection panel to get to know the student. Do you want to add anything to that?
I think you guys gave a wonderful explanation.
We've covered it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know. Let's go to a very practical question, maybe from
I
Vincent.
love that question.
Are there any facilities for washing clothes at UWC?
You'd really hope so, wouldn't
I
you?
think so too.
Yes, there will be.
Apparently there wasn't when Matthias was there.
Oh, really?
Actually, allow me 2 minutes of nostalgia. When I joined UWC in 1992 in Hong Kong, the school had just opened, and it was still opening, so it wasn't quite ready. Yeah. So one of the things that we didn't have for the first few weeks were washing machines.
Wow.
So I remember doing a bit of hand washing in the sinks for the first few days, but then very quickly the school actually implemented a laundry service where we they collected our clothes and took them to an off-site laundry and brought them back. So that was great, because you have to wash your clothes when you're at GWC. So there are facilities for washing your clothes. I would assume that you have to wash your own clothes at GWC.
Yes.
So there's no laundry service as such. But they provide washing machines.
It's part of the freedom that you get.
So great. Where should we go next?
I think we just ran out of time as well.
Okay. Well, should we maybe take one more question?
Yeah, let's go for it.
If there are any. That's a really good one from Amer. Amer, nice to meet you. The selection, is the selection dependent on English or not? Who wants to answer that question?
I can go if you'd like. The short answer is no. We've just presented now the UWC core selection criteria. There's 5 of them, and English is not one. Some national committees will even run selections in their own language, right?
Yeah.
Some form of, if you're applying through the global selection program, the whole selection is done in English, so we'd expect students to have a good level of English. However, by national committees, I guess they would expect a very small kind of level of English, but it doesn't depend on your English language.
Yeah. So it has to be adequate. Yeah, so
adequate
you should really be able to, because you'll be going to class in English, yeah. And while people catch up really quickly, if their English is a little bit weaker, a certain level of English is important. You don't have to be a native speaker to apply.
None of us
far
are.
from it. Well, none of us are exactly.
Yeah.
So, and we all applied,
well,
and we all had the opportunity to go to UWC. So that's all that we have time for. So to all of you who joined us, thank you for spending time with us this Sunday. This has been the UWC International Facebook Live, looking at UWC applications. If we didn't get to your question, you can always contact us via apply1@uwcio.uwc.org. That's the email address that's at the bottom of the screen as well. If you have found this useful and liked it, please like it on Facebook and share it with all your friends. And we have recorded this session and the 2 other sessions that we did a few days ago. So you can always go back and check here on Facebook and also on YouTube. So thank you for being with us today. I also want to say thank you to Sarah and to Izzat, and also to our technical crew for making this happen in the background and managing questions and so on. That's been really, really helpful. And thank you for being with us, and have a good rest of the day.
Good luck with the application.
Yeah, good luck.
Ciao.
Oh.
Right.
That was intense. There was a lot of questions that came through.
Questions, yeah.